Banking! Based banking. Based science, we're gonna start a bank. We're gonna lend all the money to all the kings and governments and elites. That's how you make it in this world. That's what we have learned from money masters thus far. Banking is awesome. Usury rules, boy. If we wanna make dollar bills, usury. Lend money with interest. Also, fractional reserve banking. Rules, bro. It's super cool. It might be cooler than raw chicken, bitch. Anyway, we are at the beginning points of America, the biggest superpower the world has ever seen. And the bankers, they obviously want to take America. Everybody wants America. They got all the good shit. The bankers, they also want that American dream, bro. Who you think came up with the American dream? Anyway, yesterday was the Rothschilds. Today, the second Bank of USA. Because the first two failed. Because there were some based people still in America.
Meanwhile, back in Washington in 1816, just 1 year after Waterloo and Rothschild's alleged takeover of the Bank of England, the American Congress passed a bill permitting yet another privately owned central bank. This bank was called the Second Bank of the United States.
Why they always do the same mistake, bro? What the hell is going on? Always back to the same. They never learn. Just like the influencers these days.
The new bank's charter was a copy of the previous bank's. The U.S. government would own 20% of the shares of the bank. Of course, the federal share was paid by the Treasury up front into the bank's coffers. Then, through the magic of fractional reserve lending, it was transformed.
Yeah, bro, that's the magic. That's why they got these obelisks and shit out there. I want some magic in my life too, abracadabra.
Formed into loans to private investors who then bought the remaining 80% of the shares. Just as before, the primary stockholders remained a secret. But it is known that the largest block of shares, about 1/3 of the total, were sold to foreigners. As one observer put it, it is certainly no exaggeration to say that the Second Bank of the United States was rooted as deeply in Britain as it was in America. So, by 1816, some authors claim the Rothschilds had taken control over the Bank of England and backed a new, privately owned central bank in America as well.
Andrew Jackson? Who's this guy?
After 12 years of manipulations of the U.S. economy on the part of the Second Bank of the U.S., the American people had had just about enough. Opponents of the bank nominated a...
Guess what, back in the days, couple of 100 years ago, it only took 12 years, sometimes even less, like you could see with the first couple banks. Because back then, people had a little bit more that grit. People had a little bit more those balls. A little bit more those, whatever girls have. Tits. People had a little bit more brains. They got a little bit more antsy. Faster. You start to see people in 2025, the NPCs and the normies, they are so dumbed down. They can take all the advantages they freaking want. And we ain't gonna do shit. Most people ain't gonna do shit. Besides is doing some shit that's not shit. Because some of us wanna make a change, wanna revolt, because we fed up with this shit, with these bankers. But it's been over 100 years now. We ain't getting, we ain't getting out of this. We need to burn the system down and build a new one, but they probably won't let us. And we probably cannot really burn it down. They got too much of a stronghold. But anyway, just wanted to say, back in the days, it only took about a decade or so, and people, their testosterone levels were so high, they were like, fuck this shit. We're gonna take this back. We're gonna make some changes. But these days, nothing like that's gonna happen, because people don't work like people should work. They're so MK ultra programmed, they are so numbed down, they don't have any connection to nature. And when you don't got a connection to nature, your body doesn't work, your brain doesn't work, your heart doesn't work, your emotion doesn't work. You're just this freaking empty, hollow shell of a human being, ready to get a bunch of freaking diseases. And then you're gonna have to pay your insurance companies and all these freaking stupid ass medication, big pharma companies that are some of the biggest freaking businesses in this world, like banking and making medicine. They're the best freaking businesses in this world.
Dignified senator
When you take people out of the nature.
from Tennessee, Andrew Jackson, the hero of the Battle of New Orleans, to run for president. This is his home, the Hermitage. No one gave Jackson a chance initially. The bank had long ago learned how the political process could be controlled with money. To the surprise and dismay of the money changers, Jackson was swept into office in 1828. Jackson was determined to kill the bank.
Yeah, back then they didn't control the elections also that well. That took like 150 years for them to master, 200 years to master. Like back then, it was still kind of wild west out there. Some of these based people could get in and make some real changes, because the thing was not fully captured yet.
Bank at the first opportunity and wasted no time in trying to do so. But the bank's 20-year charter didn't come up for renewal until
It was still not that easy. Like we can see, maybe he managed to do it, maybe not. He did manage to do it. But anyway, like it wasn't that easy, but still you could do it. These days, impossible. You need to burn the whole system down.
1836, the last year of his second term, if he could survive that long. During his first term, Jackson contented himself with rooting out the bank's many minions from government service. He fired 2,000 of the 11,000 employees of the federal government. In 1832, with his re-election approaching, the bank struck an early blow, hoping Jackson would not want to stir up controversy. They asked Congress to pass a renewal bill 4 years early. Naturally, Congress complied, then sent it to the president for signing. But Jackson weighed in with both feet. Old Hickory, never a coward, vetoed the bill. His veto message is one of the great American documents. It clearly lays out the responsibility of the American government towards its citizens, rich and poor.
It is not our own citizens only who are to receive the bounty of our government. More than 8 millions of the stock of this bank are held by foreigners. Is there no danger to our liberty and independence in a bank that in its nature has so little to bind it to our country?
Think about that now. Now everything is global. High standard of living. Global. Centralized. Everything works so fast with this internet speeds. You are connected to everybody and everything except yourself.
Controlling our currency, receiving our public monies, and holding thousands of our citizens' independence? would be more formidable and dangerous than a military power of the enemy. If government would confine itself to equal protection and, as heaven does its rains, shower its favor alike on the high and the low, the rich and the poor, it would be an unqualified blessing. In the act before me, there seems to be a wide and unnecessary departure from these just principles.
Later that year, in July 1832, Congress was unable to override Jackson's veto. Now Jackson had to stand for re-election. Jackson took his argument directly to the people. For the first time in U.S. history, Jackson took his presidential campaign on the road. Before then, presidential candidates stayed at home and looked presidential. His campaign slogan was Jackson and no bank.
Based.
The National Republican Party ran Senator Henry Clay against Jackson. Despite the fact that the bankers poured over $3 million into Clay's campaign, Jackson was reelected by a landslide in November of 1832.
Based.
Despite his presidential victory,
Yeah, things were a little different 200 years ago in America and in the world. And then, if some politician would make those kind of claims now, firstly, he would get killed if he was for real. Secondly, he would make those claims but wouldn't really do it because he was behind everybody's back with the hidden hand. They got those secret ass handshakes. And then people would elect him and he would do fuck all. Just like we got with our little Trump guy in America and most other freaking Western countries and other countries. That's the today's politics. Back then, you run with it and let's see, did he make it happen? Or did he get scared or whatever?
Jackson knew the battle was only beginning. The hydra of corruption is only scotched, not dead, said the newly elected president. Jackson ordered his new Secretary of Treasury, Lewis McLean, to start removing the government's deposits from the second bank and start placing them in state banks. But McLean refused to do so. Jackson fired him and appointed William J. Duane as the new Secretary of the Treasury.
Yeah, boy. Like this guy, if somebody didn't, because they probably got some of those plans into his government, like the first guy, the Secretary of the Treasury. He was probably some bank shill. But then, when he found that out, he was like, "You fired, bitch." Like he did something. He did some real stuff.
Duane also refused to comply with the president's requests, and so Jackson fired him as well.
Damn! Like the bankers, they got the first chill, the second chill. Let's see if they got the third one.
And then appointed Roger B. Taney to the office.
That's how the Hydra works.
Taney did withdraw
Oh, and it's a freaking Hydra image. I didn't even plan that.
government funds from the bank starting on October 1st, 1833. Jackson was
Dang.
jubilant. "I have it chained. I'm ready with screws to draw every tooth and then the stumps." But the bank was not yet done fighting. Its head, Nicholas Biddle, used his influence to get the Senate to reject Taney's nomination. Then, in a rare show of arrogance, Biddle threatened to cause a depression if the bank was not rechartered.
This worthy president thinks that because he has scalped Indians and imprisoned judges, he is to have his way with the bank. He is mistaken.
Next, in an unbelievable fit of honesty for a central banker, Biddle admitted that the bank was going to make money scarce to force Congress to restore the bank.
Nothing but widespread suffering will produce any effect on Congress. Our only safety is in pursuing a steady course of firm restriction, and I have no doubt that such a course will ultimately lead to restoration of the currency and the recharter of the bank.
What a stunning revelation. Here was the pure truth, revealed with shocking clarity. Biddle intended to use the money contraction power of the bank to cause a massive depression until America gave in. Unfortunately, this has happened time and time again throughout U.S. history and is about to happen again in today's world. Nicholas Biddle made good on his threat. The bank sharply contracted the money supply by calling in old loans and refusing to extend new ones. A financial panic ensued, followed by a deep depression. Naturally, Biddle blamed Jackson for the crash, saying that it was caused by the withdrawal of federal funds from the bank. Unfortunately, his plan worked well. Wages and prices sagged. Unemployment soared along with business bankruptcies. The nation quickly went into an uproar. Newspaper editors blasted Jackson in editorials. The bank threatened to withhold payments.
Like, think about how many tricks these bankers got in their freaking deep pockets. They got the first shill at the head of the treasury, then the second one, then they pull out the depression. Like, the bankers, they don't go down easily. And they are one of our biggest enemies. We got the technocrats also these days. So it's even harder for us. And like I said already, in all of my freaking videos, we are so dumbed down. We are such a shell of a human beings. Our mitochondria is struggling to produce energy everywhere in our bodies. So we got a real tough mountain to climb to win the war against these guys. Like, back then, people still had a little chance.
Which then could be made directly to key politicians for their support. Within only months, Congress assembled in what was called the panic session. 6 months after he had withdrawn funds from the bank, Jackson was officially censured by a resolution which passed the Senate by a vote of 26 to 20. It was the first time a president had ever been censured by Congress. Jackson lashed out at the bank. "You are a den of vipers. I intend to rout you out, and by eternal God, I will rout you out." America's fate teetered on a knife edge. If Congress could muster enough votes to override Jackson's veto, the bank would be granted another 20-year monopoly or more over America's money. Time enough to consolidate its already great power. Then a miracle occurred. The governor of Pennsylvania came out supporting President Jackson and strongly criticized the bank. On top of that, Biddle had been caught boasting in public about the bank's plan to crash the economy. Suddenly, the tide shifted. In April of 1834, the House of Representatives voted 134 to 82 against
The
recharge.
only time God favored the good guys. The only time. The only other times are in the freaking Hollywood movies made by tiny head people. That's the programming. The good guys will win at the end. They never do in reality. Because the good guys are so stupid and naive. They don't realize how freaking dangerous and smart and clever the enemy is. Like you can see here, the enemy played so many tricks.
Ordering the bank. This was
These guys, and these days, these guys have so many more tricks than back then, 200 years ago. Like their book of tricks, their little magic tricks, it's just... we don't probably even know most of it, to be honest.
followed up by an even more lopsided vote to establish a special committee to investigate whether the bank had caused the crash. When the investigating committee arrived at the bank's door in Philadelphia, armed with a subpoena to examine the books, Biddle refused to give them up. Nor would he allow inspection of correspondence with congressmen relating to their personal loans and advances he'd made to them. He also refused to testify before the committee back in Washington.
On January 8, 1835, Jackson paid off the final installment on the national debt, which had been necessitated by allowing the banks to issue currency for government bonds rather than simply issuing treasury notes without such debt. He was the only president to ever pay off the debt.
A few weeks later, on January 30th, 1835, an assassin by the name of Richard Lawrence tried to shoot President Jackson.
What? The assassin trying to kill the good guy? That was also different back in the days. The assassins and their little book of weapons and assaults and attacks, they weren't so good back then. Like, you could maybe escape by the grace of God. But these days, if they want to assassinate somebody, they will do it. No freaking problem. So it was a whole different ball game 200 years ago, and you can see the bankers pull out all the freaking stops to stop him. But guess what? Andrew Jackson, probably the most based president in United States history, as far as I'm seeing right now.
By the grace of God, both pistols misfired. Lawrence was later found not guilty by reason of insanity.
What did I say in one of my recent videos? If they come after you ever in a court, just be insane, bro. I'm insane.
After his release, he bragged to friends that powerful people in Europe had put him up to the task and promised to protect him if he were caught.
Really?
The following year, when its charter ran out, the Second Bank of the United States ceased functioning as the nation's central bank. Biddle was later arrested and charged with fraud. He was tried and acquitted, but died shortly thereafter while still tied up in civil suits.
After his second term as president, Jackson retired here to the Hermitage outside of Nashville to live out his life. He is still remembered here for his determination to kill the bank. In fact, he killed it so well that it took the money changers 77 years to undo the damage.
Man, those guys must hate this fool. They probably killed all his bloodline and ancestors. If I'm being honest, I don't know any of this, but they probably did that, if I would have to guess. But man, Andrew Jackson, the last based president, huh? The last based politician actually fought tooth and nail. Or maybe this is some or whatever. We ain't gonna go there now.
When asked what his most important accomplishment had been, Jackson replied, "I killed the bank."
Damn. Okay, Abe Lincoln. Maybe he was based, maybe not. Maybe he was a little gay, maybe not. Who knows? There's many rumors. Anyway, Andrew Jackson. Let's put a picture of Andrew Jackson on the wall, even though I'm not American. But he was based. One of the most based guys, as far as I can see from this little documentary. And man, he could say on his deathbed, "I killed the bank." But guess what? You didn't kill the bankers. It might took them 70 years, but after those 70 years, they came back. And they came back stronger than ever. And that grip that they came back with, that grip hasn't freaking loosened up at all. It has only got a fucking tighter. And that grip got our ball sacks. Metaphorically and literally. They have drained our testosterone out. They have done everything to make people freaking smooth-brained retards, numb to everything. And they have succeeded extremely well. So, anyway, that's today. Andrew Jackson, based. Next up, Abe Lincoln. Let's see what he got up to. I guess, if I would have to guess, the bankers probably killed his ass.